Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I am A. Ron, and this is the Inclusive Dad Podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, rate, or review the show on your favorite platform. We truly appreciate your feedback and would be honored if you shared the podcast with friends and family who might benefit. If you want to support us in our mission, please click on the link in the show description. Today, my guest is Darci Steiner. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for doing what you're doing. It's so needed.
Oh, thank you very much. Why don't you start us off by just telling me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I live in Denver, the Denver area, and have lived here for almost 30 years. And used to live in LA. I'm so sad to hear about all the fires going on there. We are very familiar with all of those areas.
Sure.
My heart goes out to people who are finding themselves homeless today. But we lived in LA for about 4 years, and I grew up in the Denver area. So Colorado is just home to me and my family. And I have 2 adult daughters, 2 grandkids, a granddaughter and a grandson. And so my husband is Mark, and his nickname is Remarkable because he's remarkable. So
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. First question is, what is your definition of inclusion?
Well, I am disabled. I have a condition called CRPS, Complex Regional Pain Syndrome. And what that is it's a nerve pain disorder that causes severe pain, debilitating pain. And it usually comes after an injury to a limb. So I had it when my kids were little. I was 35, fell down the stairs, and got it then when I was bedridden. Didn't know what I had. Doctors didn't know what I had. And so I've been dealing with this for a long time. I did get better. I became a nutritionist and was my case study, which was kind of remarkable that I felt like God healed me through good foods, and then had a reprieve, which is very rare, for 9 years. And then I had a freak accident that on my foot, and it came back. And so I've been dealing with it again for 7 years, and I have been improving again. It's just ever so slowly.
Okay.
So my definition of inclusion is to not be excluded. I think it's very easy to exclude people without knowing it. And so my request to your listeners is for everyone to have an awareness of, no matter what you do, no matter what job you have, that you are thinking about not only able-bodied people, but disabled people, and how you can include them and not exclude them. For instance, I went with my daughter, and this has been a tradition for the last 3 years. We go to a department store, and I take her shopping for clothes for Christmas. And it's a fun outing that we have. We get to be together, and she chooses what she wants. And I enjoy it because I get to see her be thrilled with what she chooses. However, I have talked with this department store and tried to advocate for electric carts for people like me who want to go through the store and enjoy the experience. But what my daughter and I have to do is we go first to the home goods area, get a basket, put it on my lap so she can have a place to put all the things so they don't fall off my lap while she pushes me in the wheelchair. So do you see what I mean? This is a large department store,
Right.
And they have not included the disabled.
Right.
They can afford to buy 2 electric carts for people like me who need it. And
Mhm.
so that's a long answer to your question, but let us include everyone and not be,
Right.
excluding others who want to experience the same thing able-bodied people get to experience.
Yeah. I'm sorry that's something you've come across, but it doesn't surprise me. My daughter, Cecilia, she's 22, uses a wheelchair. So our stories are, she's in the electric wheelchair, so she uses it. But our stories are more if, the place isn't accessible, like, or you have to ask for them to like bring over like a ramp that's back somewhere, in order for her to, get where she needs to go. Having to do that extra step. Whereas if they had a ramp there, then, she could just get in without us having to jump that extra step. So yeah, like you're saying, it's not, they can afford it. It's just a simple thing that would not only like help you, it could help, somebody that, a different reason or those kind of things too. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it seems like the people that advocate for disability are those who are disabled, and we don't always have a lot of energy
Right.
to advocate. And
Yeah.
so we need other people who are willing, and you are, because you have a daughter who is disabled.
Yep.
But we need more. We need everyone to step up
Right.
and have an awareness
Yes.
in your job, and like if you're one of those people that sets out the clothes, make sure there's enough room for a
Yep.
wheelchair to get through.
Yes.
You've experienced this,
Yep.
right? I mean, it's a
Yep.
law, but yet people don't do it.
Yeah. That's interesting too, because the department stores, you go in there and it's like sometimes miss me by myself trying to walk, you can't hardly get through them. So yeah, if I bring my daughter with, there's no chance it's happening. So yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Right.
But like you said, the awareness piece for me is big. Just talking about like what I've gone through. I've had numbers of people just thank you for talking about your story, because it makes me feel like I'm able to also tell my story. The awareness piece is big, because so I have my partner. We've been together like 3 years, and she wasn't around anybody like in a wheelchair with a disability to the extent she is now, and she's told me more than once like she knew the Americans with Disability Act was around. So she just kind of thought that all the accessibility stuff was, fixed because there's the law. And since she's been with me, she's seen like when my daughter and her try to go to a concert, they have to pull out the ramp, she's seen those things happen. So now she's like, yeah, I thought it was all fixed. Now that I'm around you guys and we come across these inaccessible things, now I see it. So just talking about it, helping other people kind of experience it, making them aware of it is for sure a good first step.
Yes, definitely awareness for sure.
Yeah. So let's say that, well, I live in Minnesota, you live in Colorado, so this isn't probably going to happen, but let's say I'm having like a birthday party for my daughter and I want to invite you over to come to the birthday party. Like what kind of things would I need to do to make it more inclusive or make it more accessible for you to be there?
Thank you for asking. The first thing that comes to my mind is, are there stairs?
Okay.
Can I get into your home without a ramp? Now, I am just starting to be able to do stairs.
Okay.
So it's not as big of an issue for me right now because I can do a few. But when I couldn't, I could only get into homes that had ramps or another strong man that could lift the wheelchair, because I do use an electric wheelchair at home.
Sure.
But when I go out, I just take the simple one, the lighter weight one. So it's easier on my husband and he just takes it out of the car. So when we go places, it's, is there a ramp is a big question, which, who has a ramp?
Right. Yep.
And so we do in our home.
Yep.
But most people don't. So that would be my first question is, how many stairs do you have? Because if you don't have a lot, I can get into your home. But if you have a lot, I'm sorry, we have to meet in the garage or something,
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I mean, like when you started answering, you said, thanks for asking. And then my brain went to like, well, the first step I feel is I have to ask you. If I don't ask you, I'm not going to know if I need to help you, or I'm not going to get to the answers. So,
But most people don't even think to ask, Aaron. That's the thing, is the invitations go out and it's just assumed. It's not even thought about. It's
right.
just like, okay, I'm invited, but I'm the one that has to think,
Right.
And then it's awkward for me to ask, well, how many stairs do you have? Whereas if
Yeah.
you ask
Yep.
the question, it's so
Right.
much easier. It's an invitation. It's like, you really thought through this. I really am invited.
Yeah.
All of me, not just the able part of me, but all of me is invited.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's refreshing.
Yeah, for sure. It changes how it feels, for sure. Just like the store example, like if it's already there, or if people, they're being proactive, it's a way different feeling than going in there and they're not. It's obvious they're not trying to make you feel included. It's just a whole different experience, for sure.
Yeah.
So I was looking through your stuff. You worked at churches. Did you work in the ministry? Did I
I
see?
did. Yes. So I always had a dream to work in the ministry, and I got my undergrad degree in psychology, and I was so burned out from school, I didn't go on to get my master's.
Okay.
But I was hired by a church to go into the ministry to lead the teens, to start and lead the teen ministry. And so I did that for a few years and worked with women, and then did some church plants. The first church plant was planting the teen ministry in the church. And I did help plant the other parts of it too. Then my husband and I, when I talked about we were in LA, we did move to LA to help start a church there. And then we moved back when I got pregnant so that we could be around
Sure.
grandparents.
Yep.
So I consider myself in the ministry, even though I'm not paid to be in the ministry right now. But my work that I do primarily, I am a nutritionist, so I do teach nutrition online. But my ministry is my books and my speaking ministry. And my first book is kind of a memoir about my story. And just different ways that I have seen God within disability, within my story, and how I have seen gifts. And that might sound kind of contrary to what a lot of people think, but one day I was laying in the middle of my living room floor on a mattress my husband brought up from the basement, so I wouldn't have to stay in the bedroom. And so I'm laying on this mattress and I'm thinking about everything that I've been through. And I'm like, I really have a deeper appreciation for the things that I can do. And that is a gift, that I am more grateful for the things that I am able to do than people who can do things that I can't do. Or do you know what I'm saying? Like, they're out there walking and they're not even thinking to be grateful for the ability to walk.
Yeah.
I am thinking, as I'm laying in bed, wow, I can see my ceiling. I'm not blind. I can see. So my gratitude felt much more profound than when I was able-bodied. So I began seeing different gifts. And I write about 30 of them in my book.
Sure.
And I could have gone on, but I had to stop somewhere. And they're short chapters. But so anyway, that was my first book. And I have written a couple of others that I'm trying to get picked up right now on the Psalms and the backstories of the Psalms.
Okay.
And then I also speak. So I speak about, my disability, and I walk on stage, I sit on stage, I stand on stage, I do a little bit of all of it. But I speak about, like, for instance, I recently spoke about the topic of mercy. It wasn't necessarily about disability, but, my perspective is inserted into the story of mercy because I have lived with disability. So it does get in there, and it does help people to see, a different perspective, a different side of what someone else would say about mercy.
For sure. So I grew up going to Baptist church every time the doors were open. So lots of times, lots of hearing the Bible being preached and spoke. And then my daughter was born. She was diagnosed with cerebral palsy and epilepsy. So there was not a lot of things that were challenged based on like what I was taught growing up. Was there anything like once you you became disabled? Was there any like stuff that you were taught earlier in your life where you had to kind of like dig into a little more and maybe rethink it or challenge some of the things you may have been taught?
I still do, Aaron.
Okay.
It's been ongoing.
Okay.
Because you rethink everything.
Right.
And like, for instance, I'll just be really honest. This morning, I was thinking, I started crying because of all these people who have lost their homes in California from the fires. And I'm like, God, why? Why have you allowed this? Do you know what I mean? And my husband's like, things just happen. And I said, yeah, but there's all this political stuff that's hurting people. And God created the mind to be beautiful, and yet people are using the mind to create evil. And so I'm grappling with all of this. Like, where is God in all of this? And so it's a very real struggle that I still have. I think if everyone who teaches about the Bible is being honest, there are things that they have questions about. And it's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing to question and to ask and to grapple with things. For instance, I just wrote this book on the Psalms. And so many of the Psalms are laments, okay, where David is asking God why and how long, and he writes it down and he records it, and it's recorded for all of eternity. And I think the reason why we relate so much with the Psalms is because we relate with the suffering,
right?
Because he was suffering and hiding from people who were trying to kill him for 10 years. And so, he understands suffering, and then he inserts these little words like, but, and then he remembers God, but you are whatever, or however, you are the God of the universe, and I trust in you. And so then he pivots and he turns it into, but I do believe in you. I do believe you are a God of hope. I do believe in courage, and that you are forming me for a purpose, that there is a reason why this is happening. Right. And so the Psalms have taught me that there's a lot of suffering in the world, and it's okay to question it. It's okay to be real about it. It doesn't mean that you don't believe in God. And it doesn't mean Christians can't be real with their feelings and their struggles.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, you started talking in the verses about like the person with a disability, and they asked Jesus, what did this person or his parents do that he caused him to be disabled? And those verses, like he didn't do anything, so my glory can shine through. Or I didn't quote that correctly, but something like that. So that's been a couple of verses that I go back to often, where it's like nobody did anything for my daughter to have a disability. She's perfect the way she is. That's how God created her, and take that approach to it. So yeah, it's definitely, and also like I feel like too, after she is born, has diagnosed with her disability, I mean, that's a different thing in my in my life, a different lens if I read, the Bible. Now I
Yeah.
have that lens also when I'm reading it. So things are, you see different ways to look at certain passages or think about things too, which is it's natural. You're going to change your view on some things. So yeah, it's been interesting for me for sure.
I love that. I love that idea of that you have a couple of different lenses. You see
Yep.
through yours, you see through hers, and we need all of these
Yep.
so that we can see God, all of us, together as a whole. And
Right.
everybody has a different perspective. And so let's share it. Let's talk about it and
Right.
kind of
For
try to
sure.
understand him in deeper ways.
Yeah. And my daughter, she loves music and singing. So I mean, she loves going to church and singing. And there's been so many times, we're sitting there singing the songs, and I look over and she's just singing as loud as she can, and it's so pure. And I look like, man, I wish I could like worship that purely, because I mean, I don't know if I'm older and I worry about what people think of me, but she's just singing the best she can perfectly, and worshiping just so purely, and it's sometimes I get jealous of that.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I wish I could see it. I mean, I can imagine it, but
Yeah.
to be there with her and to see her, um, God, I'm sure God is just loving it.
So can you talk about the nutrition piece? Is there, like you said that um, what specifically, like, did you change in your nutrition that helped you, you think, or was there specific things that you did differently?
It's really an amazing story because there is no cure for CRPS. Um, there are rare remissions, and I had a rare remission.
Okay.
But my remission was for 9 years. I could be in a textbook. It was really remarkable. So I do believe that God healed me, but He's also allowed me to have it again.
Sure.
So the nutrition piece came in by necessity. Doctors did not know what to do with me, and I was dying, and I was near death. And my counselor said to me, Darci, is there anything that you know that you need to do that you're not doing that could help you? We were desperate.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yes, there is something, and that is eat. Because I was malnourished, and I was malnourished because when you have so much pain, it is so difficult to eat.
Okay.
And if you're in that place, any listeners are in that place, you understand what that means. It hurts to eat. And so my husband helped me, and what he did was he started making a protein drink because it's much easier to drink calories than eat them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I enjoyed it, and I put on a couple pounds, which gave me some hope. Like, okay, maybe I can get through this. So I started reading more nutrition type things because it was up to me. Literally, my life I was dying. So I read when I could, and I enrolled in a nutrition program because I thought, okay, I'm reading about all this. I might as well get a degree in it.
Right.
And so I enrolled in a holistic nutrition program that I could study from home. I became my case study. I practiced on myself, and it was a 4-year program. It took me 6 years. The school allowed me 2 additional years because they saw it was saving my life. By the time I was done with my degree, I was able to open a private practice, and I had no pain. I don't know, Aaron. What's your conclusion? Like, there's no cure, yet nutrition, good food, God healed me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to function perfectly. I went hiking. I did every normal thing that I did before I got injured. And for 9 years. And then a little chair falling on me at an event sent me back to where I had been before. And I felt like Okay, what didn't I learn the first time? And it turns out a lot. There was a lot I didn't learn. And so when I look back, yes, I'm grateful. Has it been hard? You bet.
Mhm.
It has been so hard, but nutrition is helping me through again. But what I've seen, so my clients right now, I help a lot of people with pain management
Mhm.
because I've had to do that for myself. And a lot of people don't want to be on medications,
Yep.
and so there are remedies, there are natural ways that you can deal with pain, and not just foods, but deep breathing. There are a lot of different modalities that are natural
Mhm.
that help with pain, that help with weight loss. I help the gamut, people with diabetes. But my perspective as somebody who has been there needing help gives me a deeper sense of compassion for my clients.
Yep.
And so I think that's a benefit that God gave me in the second disability is I'm more relatable as a nutritionist to
Yeah.
people that come and seek my help.
Yeah. It's not just theoretical. You've actually used it on yourself, or you understand it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there something that most people eat that if they wouldn't eat it would like help with pain? Is there something that like I eat that I kind of makes pain worse maybe that I shouldn't be eating?
The biggest culprit is sugar.
Okay.
Sugar wreaks havoc on the body in every disease. Every disease is affected by sugar. So sugar was never meant to be consumed the way that we consume it, at least in America. It's just, we're just supposed to have just a little bit. It's supposed to be just a tad.
Mhm.
So that and an anti-inflammatory diet. All of us have some level of inflammation
Mhm.
in the body. So eating an anti-inflammatory diet helps with many conditions.
Sure.
My favorite, I'll tell my favorite way to help people is through amino acid therapy.
Okay.
Protein and amino acids have done things for me I am just astounded by. And I think it's a missing piece for a
Mhm.
lot of people. And not a lot of people teach amino acid therapy, and I don't know why, because it helps so much. But I think a lot of people don't know about it.
Is amino acids is that what's in like fish and stuff, or is that something different?
It's protein.
Okay.
Yeah, amino acids are the building blocks of protein.
Okay.
So any protein food that you have has a combination of amino acids.
Okay.
So it's combinations and it's isolated amino acids that help with certain things. Like, let's say, okay, so my tea right here, this has theanine in it, which is an amino acid. Theanine helps to relax the body. So it's a natural way to help with anxiety.
Mhm.
Just drinking green tea
Okay.
has theanine. It's an amino acid. You wouldn't think it's a protein, but yes, there's protein in tea.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of other ways.
Yeah.
Proteins help with sleep, help with anxiety, help with pain, help build muscle.
Yep.
I used to help athletes. I used to work at the local high school with the sports teams, and I would
Mhm.
help the basketball players put on muscle
Right.
through amino acid therapy. In fact, one of my clients was Derek White, who plays for the Celtics.
Okay.
He's a starting guard for the Celtics. He
That's
was a
cool.
former client of mine, and so I get to watch him, and I'm like,
Mhm.
go Derek. I'm a Celtics fan, even though I live in
Yeah.
Colorado.
Sure.
But it's just amazing
Yeah.
what, if you focus on that, what it can do. And it's helped me walk again now twice.
Yeah. That's great. My daughter also has epilepsy, so seizures, and when she was younger, some of the doctors talked about the ketogenic diet. We never actually did it, but we knew some families who had children that were on the ketogenic diet, and they stopped having seizures through that. So I definitely know that like what we eat and that kind of thing can definitely make a difference.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen it and I've experienced it.
Yeah. What is one tip you can share today to help our listeners be more inclusive? Not just something simple that they can do just starting today.
Um, Take personal responsibility for awareness. Don't put that off onto someone else, your boss, but
Yeah.
take it on yourself and just be aware.
Right. Yeah, I love that. That's one thing kind of more recently in my journey too. I'm big on inclusion piece for my daughter in school specifically, and realize that just because there's a law or the way they should be doing stuff doesn't mean they're going to. So then I would get upset, and it's like I can't control what they're doing. I can control like how I can make the world more inclusive myself. So just taking more personal responsibility, myself to make the world more inclusive and spread that message so other people will do the same thing. So yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to talk about that we haven't discussed? You want to share a little bit about like how people can get a hold of you and your book and how that kind of stuff?
Sure. So my book is available on Amazon, and I wrote a study guide that goes with it. So you don't necessarily have to be disabled.
Sure.
The book works with anything that you're going through. The study guide is to help you personalize it to your own situation so that you can benefit from the gifts that are found in suffering.
Sure.
So Amazon primarily, and then I'm on almost all social media.
Okay.
So Darci with an I and middle initial J, Steiner.
Okay. I'll definitely put links in the show notes to all that stuff. So that's great. Ready for the last question?
Okay, bring it on.
I mean, I'm guessing the answer is going to be no, but do you like spam lunch meat?
I haven't had it in a long time, but we had it regularly when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And my mom would fry it up.
Yep.
And I did enjoy it. I have to say, I do remember enjoying it.
Yeah. So currently, though, it'd be a no?
Currently, it'd be a no.
That's fine. Yeah. After we're talking about all the healthy eating, and I'm like,
I know.
that's not really the healthiest thing to eat.
Aaron, I'm a nutritionist.
Like all the sodium and whatever else is in there is not healthy for you. So, but yeah. I asked that question of all my guests because I live in Austin, Minnesota, where Hormel is and where they make spam and where the spam museum is located. So it's just been kind of fun asking everybody and seeing what the reaction is. So
yeah, I bet you get a wide variety of answers too.
Well, it's interesting because most of the time it's like a really quick, strong yes or no. It's usually pretty fast. There's not a lot of like that. It's pretty strong usually.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about that we haven't discussed?
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you like spam?
So I do like spam. I ate it. I think we had it. Well, let me see. I'm trying to think. Maybe once or twice a year we buy it, fry it up, have it with like pancakes or something like that. So I mean, I do eat it. It's not like it's a everyday thing. So I do eat it.
Yeah. I mean, if my mom were here and she fried up a piece for me, I would eat it.
Yeah.
There's sentimentality that kind of goes with it for me.
Yep.
But becoming a nutritionist kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah. And I don't know if people think, but I live in the town, like I said, where they make it, where the museum's located.
Yeah.
And it's not like we every meal have it. So
yeah.
It's kind of a fun thing.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Me too. To all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Inclusive Dad Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, rate, or review the show. Your feedback helps us connect with more champions of inclusion. Remember to share this podcast with friends and family who might benefit. If you want to support us in our mission, please click on the link in the show description. Together, we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.